Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Black Women Amplified, the podcast. Your host, Monica Wisdom Tyson, brings you downloadable conversations that matter to women around the globe. We discuss all things Black girl magic, amplify our voices, and transform our challenges into triumphs. Monica calls on her league of extraordinary women to push our boundaries, share their expertise, and stories of personal transformation. Welcome your host of Black Women Amplified, Monica Wisdom Tyson.
The reason why I wanted to talk to you is because a lot of people right now are going through this, what they call a pivot. Mm-hmm. I call it an evolutionary change, but people are looking at their lives and like, I want to put out my own ideas. I want to put out my own dreams. So when you started Miracle Buttercream, is this something that you wrote down, a vision that you wrote down, or did you just go for it?
Well, I am kind of like a writer based on being a producer. So I write things out and I never just rely on me. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the bunch. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box, but I have a circle of people. So I will at least start it. I will start something. And I said, I'm looking for a name of the products because all my friends were already saying, yo, I need another jar of that stuff that you make. And I said, you guys, this stuff is getting expensive. The ingredients are getting expensive. And so when they heard that I was turning it into a business, then all my friends are producers. So they're all very crafty writers, right? So I'll say, okay, well, this was the name Skin Fix, like when I first started it. And then I sent it out to my friends and they said, it was my friend Diva, who is a producer over at like Nickelodeon or MTV, I think she's at now. She said, girl, this stuff is a miracle. You need to work off of that right there. Like when I put this on my skin, like it is a complete transformation. And I said, okay, so and everybody used to call me in my culinary days, because, I appeared on the Food Network and I was into culinary for a long time. And I think that's where I got my skills for putting concoctions together, even for skincare. And so they used to call me the butter queen because I put butter in everything. Even when I went on Food Network Star, I put butter in every dish, and it was like, that became my nickname. And they even had me in a scene with 2 sticks of butter in my hand and butter on the table. And I was waving the butter bars up in the air. And I said, butter, 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 butter.
Like Julia Childs.
Yeah. So then I took the word miracle and I put it with butter. But I wanted people to understand that it was a cream for your skin, even though there's buttercream, icing, and things like that. But, I thought that went well. And then I put my own name at the beginning of it, Mama Sita's, because my dad gave me that as a nickname because one, when I was born, he said I look Puerto Rican. And it was funny because he don't know no other Puerto Rican words or names or references, and everybody has a nickname in his world. So he started saying, yeah, Mama Sita. And so it stuck. And then by the time I was like 3, they dropped off the mama part. And literally, that's the only name that I know is Sita. So it's not like I just pulled this name out the sky, like for my product. Mama Sita is my name, even though I was named after my grandmother and most people don't know that name. But, that was kind of like in honor of my dad. Give the name that he gave me as a child, I put that on my product. And then I thought, well, people might think that I have a Spanish background, but oh, well, this is just part of my story. And that's the name I want to use. So people can say, oh, it's a Spanish company. And I go, no, I have a couple Spanish employees, but no.
El Negro.
So it's a lot of little funny stories, but I feel like the Bible says you got to write the vision. You got to make it plain. You got to put it on the walls, on the tables. that he that readeth it runs with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this vision board, and I have certain things on the vision board, and I kid you not, Monica, when I tell you, I look at the vision board and it just blows my mind. I wrote this vision board in 2017, and everything that was on that board or that's on that board is starting to get a check mark next to it. It's checking it off. Like personal things, got married. I had a beach house on there, bought a beach house. Then I had Denzel Washington and the word partners under it. He doesn't even know he's on my vision board. He doesn't know that to this day. And then I put Neiman Marcus at the bottom. I also had a Miracle Buttercream store, but I was asked to speak on a panel at Neiman Marcus 3 weeks ago. So I flew to Dallas where the home store is, and I spoke. And then this woman right after I spoke, she came walking up to me and said, "Do you mind if I give you a word from God?" And I said, "No, I don't mind at all. Especially if it's from God. I want to hear it." And she said, "God just showed me that you're going to be doing a TED talk on your life, on your business, and you should prepare for that." That's what I see. That's what God is showing me right now. And I didn't know this lady from a can of paint. She just walked up to me in the middle of Neiman Marcus. We were at the Estee Lauder counter, and I was getting ready to get matched up for some foundation. Because Estee Lauder actually sponsored the event that I spoke on. So I just thought that was interesting that Neiman's was actually on my board and all these things. You have to plan things out. Like as an entrepreneur, one of my friends always said, the best entrepreneur is the one that's constantly planning for the future thing to happen before it happens. So when I was at my house, I built the basement. I had the basement built before I had enough business to do down in the basement. But I said, okay, the money that I got, I think I had like $17,000. And I said, I'm just gonna find a contractor and take all of this money and put it into the basement. And then all of a sudden I had the basement done. And then, so I wasn't in the dining room anymore, and I wasn't in the living room and taking up space, in the house. And then, little things like that. Then I felt like I'm going to be ordering jars from overseas, and I'm going to need a place for these jars. Where I'm going to put all of this. I can't put it back up in the living room, but I didn't have big loads yet. I was thinking in future. So I had this Amish like shed built on my property. It's like 300 square feet in my backyard that became the storage space. And then I had some pavers put down that go from that space to, and I didn't have nothing to put in the storage unit, honey. That storage unit became so bulging that I didn't even have any more room in the storage unit. But the thing was, I got it in advance. I didn't wait until one of my dad's favorite things he taught us. He said, prepare for war in times of peace. You don't start trying to get things in order when chaos breaks out. You try to create what can be orderly if chaos breaks out. And so that's what I applied to everything. So I would write things down. I would write my own press release, even though nobody was trying to put me on their show. I still had the press release ready for NBC or the Today. My thing is the Today Show is going to call me one day. And so I believe that, you should hire a publicist if you believe that you should, but publicists right now, they go for like between $7,000 and $10,000 a month, and they want to be on a retainer, and they want to at least do 3 to 6 months. So I said, okay, I've reached over $1 million, almost $1.5 million in sales with no marketing, no publicist, no nothing. And then I said, but I know a lot of people in television. Do I really need a publicist? So I just hit up all my TV friends. And it's one thing to ask your friends to do something for you, but it's another thing to add a price tag on the back of it. I said, okay, guys, here's the deal. Whoever gets me on the Today Show first, I'm going to write you out a check for $5,000. All of a sudden, all the letters started going out. Within 3 days, Craig Melvin and one of the producers had my information in their hand. Mm-hmm. Now, I haven't been booked yet, but I believe that it's the start of the process. They have a segment called She Made It. And I believe that if I get on that segment and be able to tell my story, my real story, not, oh yeah, I just did this and this happened. No, like I told you, I almost lost my house. It's a story behind that story, where I was receiving electrical assistance from the government because I literally was thinking that I was going to lose it all. And I just kept saying, Lord, I know you gave me this house for a reason. And what you give, you don't take back. That's right. One thing I don't get confused. I knew God had given me that house. And so I started renting out part of the house just to be able to pay the mortgage. And people wouldn't be able to believe it. They would say, well, wait a minute. Your dad was a multimillionaire. He had y'all set up. Yeah, he did. But he didn't plan for some other vultures to come out of nowhere and cause so many lawsuits that we spent millions on legal fees. But I said, you know what? They could take all of that. And that's all it did was teach me who my real provider is. And his name starts with a J, not a B. Okay, Butch Lewis is my earthly father, but Jesus Christ set the stage for everything. He owns everything.
So during that time period, that's where you solidified your faith, or is it something that you grew up with?
I believe that my faith was increased at that time because I had never really had to deal with no serious financial trials. That was never part of my story. So it's one thing to have faith and say what God can do until you need him to actually do it. And then when he actually does it, you can actually stand and say that it was he that did it. Right. You can't say, oh, God, he's a provider if you don't feel like he ever really provided for you, and so I always knew, my dad always had a sense of gratitude. He wasn't a super religious person, and neither am I, but he had a sense of gratitude all the time because he knew where he came from. And he reminded us constantly. And I said, after all the lawsuits were said and done, and the lawyers were nice and set up with fat pockets when it was all said and done, I said, one thing that they can't take from me is everything that my dad put in me. Right. And that was the real true hustle, the real true can-do attitude, the real true get up and do it no matter what. Don't cut corners. My dad I used to work for my father for a short period in my career when I was transitioning into the music business because he had opened up a record label as well. And I used to come to work. I was living in Jersey and I would say, okay, well, I have to be at work at 10 o'clock. So I'll leave the house at like 9:30, knowing that I couldn't get there till like maybe 10:15. So my father was famous for calling the office. He never worked. He wasn't in his own office, but he had control of everything that went on. And so he would call the office. And I would be like telling the other employees, like, if my dad calls for me, just tell him I'm in the bathroom and then call me and tell me that he called so I can hurry up and run after I parked my car. And so he would get me on the phone and say, okay, so you got to be at work at 10 o'clock and you got there at 10 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, Dad, it's 10 o'clock. I got here at 10 o'clock. He said, if you get there at 10 o'clock, then you're late.
Oh, wow.
Because you didn't plan for anything to go wrong. And I was like, but Dad, it was constant grinding in my head. And he was no respected person. He wasn't going to ball out this person and his own daughter can just roll up in there whenever she felt like it. He was going to embarrass me in front of them just to make a point. If I cuss her out and she's my flesh and blood, imagine what I'm going to do to you if y'all mess up.
I worked for my dad. He had a pharmacy and so I read the strictness on the kid. Was way different.
The standard is higher. The bar is higher because he's expecting way more from you.
Yes.
You know, and I didn't like it. And
because now, we're their representative.
Right.
So we have to be the mini them. So they have to instill in us, this is how you do it. So when people see you, they see me.
And you know what's crazy? He kept us kind of like out of the limelight, right, so to speak, as we were growing up. So his closest friends didn't really know what we were capable of and all that kind of stuff. So like Bob Johnson, the president of BET and the founder of RLJ Companies, he was the executor of my dad's estate. So I took my product to him. I was like, let me, see if Mr. Johnson wants to invest. I worked for him for 15 years, and he was definitely in my dad's circle for my father to have put him down as the executor. And he said, I remember going to DC and sitting in his office, and he said, oh yeah, your business is just too small. It's too small for what I got going on. And I was thinking to myself, what? Like, you're a guy who started with nothing. No matter how small it is, this is like beyond. And I said, no, Sita, don't say that. Just say thank you and walk out that door. But then it came to me, that old movie, if you build it, that they will come. Yes. And then now my father's friends are looking at me saying, damn, this is like a little Butch. This is like a little Butch Lewis. Like, she's really in there running things. She's not necessarily running it like he would run it, of course, because I'm not around here cursing people out. But
maybe you should.
Right, exactly. But she's running it, and it's actually growing. Like, my sales increase over 120% every single year. So if it's 1 million this year, it's going to be 2 million next year, and it's like a locomotive that won't stop. And it's okay that they might not have seen me back then. I remember calling them and saying, guess what, guys? I'm so excited. We did $5,000 in sales this month. I can't believe it. We did $5,000 in sales this month. Now, if I made $5,000 in sales this month, I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to I couldn't even.
You can't get the words out.
Right. I can't even get the words out.
We're not going to put that in the universe.
Be able to cover payroll for the week. Okay. So it's like the small steps that we take to get higher and higher. I appreciate every last step. That's why, like, when you hit me up to do the podcast, I consider it an honor. Anybody who wants to interview me sees the value in that. And I want to say yes to as many people as I can, because there might be a day where I can't say yes to everything because I'm just that busy,
Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But the thing that was special about, like, body butters are everywhere. But I think what really, aside from the product itself being great, high quality, high ingredients, all of the things, the packaging, like when I opened up the box, I just expected to get my product, but it was like a birthday present. Oh, there was a note, there was a bracelet that said, believe in miracles.
Oh, yeah.
Samples of other products. And I was like, and so that just etched in my brain. I said, oh, I love this, because the customer experience was so great. It came really fast. I didn't have to wait months for it. It sold out. Like, and just the jars, the special jars that you have, my product didn't melt. And I still have some jars that still have some in it, and the product isn't rancid. And so that's amazing to me, because I know how things get caught in shipping and things get frozen and all the things. And I was like, wow, this is really well
and
made.
People could be using old ingredients before they even get it to you. And that, like, each ingredient of mine comes with paperwork. Okay. And if I don't get those papers and see that, okay, this mango butter expires in 2026, I got time to, and so I buy everything in advance. But I buy my butters like I'm buying food. I buy just enough to get me through the next 2 months. And then I'll place another order, but they'll have my credit card on hand, but they will not ship me those butters until that 2 months is up. And then it's almost like I have a subscription, where I'm going to get new butters. I am not going to have a warehouse full of butters because I want to be able to ship my products within 30 days of them being on the shelf. And our shelves are stacked, but I just refuse. And if we've had, I wouldn't say every product has shown up on everybody's doorstep in perfect condition, but I would say in 5 years of doing business, it's probably 5, or I can count on one hand how many people may have reached out to me and said, this was melted, or this happened, or I can't smell it strong enough. And I'll be like, really? What? That's not right. That doesn't sound good. And replace it immediately. But that, that's just who I am. Like it has my name on the cap. I tell my employees, I say, you see this right here? Like, it doesn't say Jordan's Miracle Buttercream. It says Mama Sita's Miracle Buttercream. And I know you're down here helping us make it. But guess what? It has to be perfect. They have to be inspected. And so when you scale, you lose a lot of that too. So that's why scaling for me is going to take a little bit more money than it would normally take, I think, another type of product that you can mass produce, because I want to buy a building where I have all my cold press machines lined up and I have it separated from shipping, because you can't have where you make products in the same space where you ship products. People are doing stuff from their house and it's just not right. It's just not right. But you don't know that. They can, and then you'll figure it out when you get it. I don't even whip. You know how you put your product into a mixer and you turn the mixer on and you're getting a whole lot of air into it. And so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Stretching.
Now you can put it in more jars and you can sell more units. But I don't do that. We don't have no fire, no stove, no crock pot, no heat, we do not heat products. We don't believe in using another level of heat because to clean the products after they come out of the mango seed, the cocoa butter seed, the shea butter seed, that takes heat when they're doing it. And so we don't want to add another layer of heat, because the more you cook a vegetable, the less vitamins are going to be in that vegetable by the time you eat it. So we try to maintain as much of the nutritional value as we can when we get it. Of course, we don't want, products that are so natural that you see bits and pieces of like bark.
You're like, that just scratched me, and it's the outside of the seed.
Right. And everybody says they like natural, but they don't like it that natural.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm sitting here and what I see for you, Reba McEntire keeps coming up. And not that you're a country western star, but a friend of mine used to work for her. And he was one of her dancers. And the one thing he told me is that she owned everything. He said every light that you see, every prop that you see, the airplane she drives in, the trucks, the lights, the light bulbs, all owned by her. And so that's the empire that she built. It's 100% Reba McEntire. And that's what I see for you.
Wow.
I know you're going in all these different directions and you think that's where you're supposed to go.
It's okay. Yeah.
You have something, and I tell you, 35 years in the business, I've seen some products. You have something very special.
Thank you.
And I think that just keep doing what you're doing. The money will come. Like you said, the dream, you write the dream out and the money will come. Write the number down you need. And I promise you, by the end of the year, you'll have it. Because I can see Mama Sita trucks driving across the country.
I received that, and I believe that, and I just believe that God can do anything. And sometimes it was a friend of mine who sent me the audition form, and she said, you should just give it a try. And I'll do it just to build up my
if the exposure
muscles.
is great.
Just the muscles of just going out and being fearless. You know what I mean? Like it was a little scary being out in, Palm Springs, California, and I stayed at the casino where they were having the event, and I didn't take anybody with me because I was really practicing my speech of what I was going to say. But you know what? There's a scripture that's on my website. I put them on my checkbooks, and it's everywhere, etched in my brain. And it's Romans 8:28. And I say, all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. And it's something that I truly live by. Like, I believe that you have to surrender what you want, and you still got to go out there and reach for things and do things. But the doors that open are the ones that are supposed to open for you. So if it doesn't open for you, it's for your good. Like, we think that we want things, we pray for this man or that, and we wondering, oh my God, we didn't get that. Well, you don't even know that God might have just been protecting you from a situation. Right. You don't even know down the road.
That part.
And so I apply that to all aspects of my life. And that is the secret sauce. That is the secret sauce. And then I never compare myself to other people. I commend and applaud
and
other
celebrate
people. I was walking through Times Square, and I saw the girl from Maelle products up on the billboard, and I was just shouting and hollering. One, because I use her conditioner on my hair, which I love, and two, because she is young and she did it, and she's like doing it, and whatever her journey was. And then I was listening to Joel Osteen talking, and he was talking about a testimony of this woman, and I was like, he sounded like he's talking about, I forgot her name, Janelle, from Maelle products. And then I was like, he is talking about her. Oh my gosh. She got Joel Osteen testifying about her story, but her story belongs to her, and our story, whatever that is, belongs to us. So we can't compare ourselves. We can only, applaud and commend other people, and be willing to help other people. Be willing to help other people. There's a girl that was making butters, believe it or not. Her butters were like candle butters, and you could put the warm wax on your body. And I get everything that I was doing in the beginning. I gave her all the same advice. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Because I've already went through it. So now I'm going to be that person for you that says, don't waste your money on this, or don't. And she'll still make the same choices. I mean, her own choices. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel intimidated by her because she was making a similar product to me. As I said, if you want to walk in these shoes, be my guest. You don't really know what I had to do to get here.
I tell everybody, entrepreneurship is not for the weak. It is not glamorous. No. It is not sexy.
No, and when you said we didn't have to glam up because we had an audio interview, I said, well, praise God. Not that I couldn't be ready, but it's like what we wear scrubs. We wear scrubs to work. We wear our Crocs. We have our hair nets on, our gloves and whatever. I even tell people, like if you're going to go into the room, if those Crocs were outside, you put the shoe covers on, and then you could go into the lab where we make the butter. But I am really strict with that kind of stuff.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. And I will say this, you are welcome to come back anytime, because you have such a compelling story. And you're looking, I know you said you were looking for all these celebrities. Just keep telling your story. Just keep telling your story, because that is going to be the magnet that brings everything you need to you, because you are the trajectory of your life has been the highest of the high, and then you struggled, and then you rebuilt yourself in such a way that you're successful on your own. You don't have anybody's name attached to your success but God.
Yes.
And
that's how God intended it to be.
100%. And you look back at it, you're like, why? In the midst of it, you're like, oh Lord, why am I going through this? But when you get to the other side, when you have $1.5 million worth of sales with your name on it, I mean, that's a testimony and that's a story. And when you continue to tell that story, all the doors will open up.
Yeah. I had an attorney just do like a business attorney do like a valuation for my company, because I said I want to be real with my valuation when I present this to the sharks, whether they believe it or not. The numbers are the numbers. And I was shocked when he came back and said, based on your growth, you have a $20 million company. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. He said, so you can ask for anything between $2.5 and $5 million for 5% of your company. I said, I will not do that. Look like a fool up there. He said, no, you don't understand.
Let me tell you something. I keep telling Black women
so fast. That's the real numbers.
I keep telling us as women of color, Black women, we need the confidence of a mediocre white boy. Because the first thing we say is it's not good enough. But you literally have you have Will Smith, the top movie star in the world, saying, I need and now he has access to everything.
Yeah. And Harry Smith is who placed the order and brought it out there for them. And Will Smith's wife has a skincare line. I was like, what is happening with her products?
But even before that, you created a lifestyle conversation for Black people in the 90s when we were dealing with the imagery of gangsters and crack and all of those other things. So you have the ability to create something that is special for us that other people will appreciate. And so you have to believe in that. It's not your company. If he says it's worth $20 million, ask for $7. All they can say is no. It's about the negotiation. All they can say is no. And guess what? So what? You get the exposure, you get the visibility, and you go on and continue to go on your $1 billion journey.
Right.
Don't worry about what it's good enough. I promise you. It's good enough.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, I just want to say thank you for this conversation. It has been amazing. It is inspiring. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing so much about your whole life. And I can't wait to see what you do next. How can people get in touch with you and learn more about you and the product?
Well, that's simple. They can find the products at miraclebuttercreme.com. Everything's spelled exactly how it's spelled for real. miraclebuttercreme.com. And then I kept it as simple as possible for Instagram and Facebook too, at Miracle Buttercream. And believe me, if my personal Instagram is Sita Lewis, I have people that reach out to me because we're in a day and age where they reach out to people straight through social media and I respond. Okay. It's like my email inbox. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I just responded to someone in Atlanta doing a Mother's Day event where they want my products in their gift bags. And so I said, oh my God, yes, I would love to participate. And you're asking me to put my products in your bag, and you don't necessarily need me to be a sponsor, but yet everybody can still see my products. I'm in. Put me down. And that came through Instagram. So, I definitely look at the Instagram for both my personal and my business. And I really appreciate it, Monica. I love what you're doing. And now that I'm familiar with your podcast, I signed up to be a subscriber.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Excited to hear more stories, more inspiring stories, because that's where I get my inspiration from. And it moves us. We got to continue to inspire each other and help us move the needle.
Yeah, go back and listen. I interviewed Shay Wafer, who is the director of the Waco Theater in Los Angeles. You would love her story. She went from Compton, now she's back in New York, but she stopped through Yale. And she's one of the top people in the Black theater industry.
Wow.
And then I interviewed Leatrice Elsie, who's the senior program director of the Apollo Theater in New York. So if you don't know Leatrice, you want to meet her. She's a dynamic woman. She used to work with the Atlanta Black Arts Festival.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people, there are a lot of great women like yourself. My gift is sharing people's stories. So when I find somebody who's intriguing and exciting and who I just believe in, I want the world to hear your story. So that's why I started this podcast.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm going to send you Veronica's information.
Oh, please do.
Because it is so weird when I'm listening to you. It's like, I feel like I'm talking to her. It's so crazy. And you probably won't think it because, you know, you guys are both from that same area, but it's like, wow. It's almost something about your voice that sounds like her, not just like the accent too, but she's
it's interesting because I was even East St. Louis is in Illinois, but I was born in Illinois. So all my people are there.
Oh, wow.
So I do have the same, like we grew up in, well, I grew up in St. Louis, but back and forth because it's literally across the river. But
yeah,
so, yeah, I get it.
With the Spinxes, we were always in St. Louis. And I remember when Leon Spinks lived with us. So the same way I started my business is the same way my dad started his. I had to give up my canopy bed to Leon Spinks. Okay, now that's a story all by itself. He had a Jerry curl back then. I'd be like, oh, he's getting that juice in my pillow.
sheets. No.
The Jerry curl juice.
It's just the imagery of Leon Spinks sleeping in a canopy bed.
Yes, that I had gotten when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and we had like a 4-bedroom house, and it was 6 kids. But I had to like go bunk someplace else with my youngest brother, who's 11 years younger than me, so that Leon can have a space to sleep while he was in training. Because my dad signed them straight out of the 76 Olympics, and he signed Leon first. So yeah, wow. I know all the Spinxes.
So when are you producing that documentary?
That would be something,
ma'am.
Yeah, I've had people contacting me about that, and I said, you know what? When God says go on that one, I'll be ready to go. But he hasn't said go yet, so I gotta get this foundation first, and then I will gladly help put the pieces together to tell my father's story.
The black men of that era. Oh my God. When I think about people like your dad and Venus and Serena's father and Tiger's dad.
Oh yeah.
They literally built mountains out of nothing.
Yes.
And, I love to hear those stories. But I know you have to get back to work. I could talk to you forever.
I know. It's okay. I really enjoyed it, Monica. I really, truly did. And thank you again for having me. And I can't wait to let me know when it's up.
I most definitely will.
Out the other interviews. And I'm going to post for everybody to check it out as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very kind of you. All right, ma'am. I would say goodbye and thank you for joining the Black Women Amplified podcast. And everybody, we'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to Black Women Amplified. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe and log on to blackwomenamplified.com for more information. Keep shining.